Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, my name is Aisyah Putri Zaliyanti. I'm from 6I Putri. I'm 12 years old. I'm born at SIDOARJO 9 December 2010. Now I want to retell a story of 7 brothers. Once upon a time, in a village, there was a husband and wife who had 7 young sons. The oldest child is 10 years old, while the youngest is 2 years old. To fulfill their daily needs, the husband and wife grow vegetables to be eaten daily, and the rest is sold to the market. Even though they are mediocre, their lives are always in harmony, peace, and serenity. At one time, their village was hit by a prolonged dry season. All plants died from drought. The villagers began to lack food. Their food supplies are running low day by day, while the dry season never ends. In the end, the entire population of the village suffered from hunger, including the family of a husband and wife and their 7 children. Seeing this situation, the husband and wife panicked. Vegetable crops that have been their source of livelihood are no longer growing. Meanwhile, they have no other work except planting vegetable in the garden. They've thought hard to find a way out of these difficulties, but did not find the answer. Finally, they agreed to throw their 7 children into a forest far from the village. One night, when their 7 children was fast asleep, the two of them discussed how to get rid of their 7 children. Pang, how do you keep the children from getting caught? Asked the confused wife. Tomorrow morning, we will take our children to look for firewood in a forest which is quite far away. When they take a lunch break, we pretend to look for drinking water in the river, explained the husband. Okay, Pa, said the wife agreed. Without them realizing it, apparently, their third child, who at that time was not sleeping, heard all their conversations. The next day, a husband and wife took their 7 sons to the forest to look for firewood. Arriving at the nearest forest, the father said to them, "All my children, we'd better find a large forest with lots of trees so we can get more firewood," said the father. "Find that," answered the 7 boys in unison. After walking far, they arrived at a vast forest. How happy they were, because in the forest there was a lot of firewood. They immediately collected firewood, which was scattered a lot. When it was almost noon, the mother invited her 7th child to rest and unwind after almost half a day's work. At that moment, the husband and wife were about to start carrying out their plan to leave their 7 children in the middle of the forest. "Oh, my children, you all rest here first. Your mother and I want to find a river around this forest because our drinking water supply has run out," said the father. "Find that," replied the 7 children in unison. "Don't take too long, Dad, Mom," said their youngest. "Yes, my son," replied the mother and went to follow her husband. Meanwhile, after waiting for some time and their parents had not returned, the 7 children were getting restless. The worry lest their parents have a disaster. Finally, the eldest invited his 6 younger siblings to go after their parents. However, before leaving the place, the third child suddenly spoke up. "Brother, there is no point in us following father and mother. They have left all of us," said the third children. "What do you mean?" asked the eldest. "Last night, when you guys were sleeping soundly, I heard Mom and Dad talking. They deliberately left us in the middle of this forest. because they were no longer able to support all of us due to the long trek, explained the third child. Where are you just telling us about this? Asked the second child. I'm afraid father and mother will be angry with me, replied the third child. In the end, the seven children did not go after their parents, especially since it was already getting dark. They immediately sought shelter from the night air. Luckily, not far from where they were, there was a large tree that had a hollow trunk like a cave. They rested and slept in the wooden hole until morning. But what should we do now? Where should we go? Asked the second child. You guys wait here. I will climb a tall tree. Maybe from up in the tree I could see a puff of smoke. If there is, it's a sign that there is a settlement there, said the eldest. It was true. When he was up in the tree, the eldest saw a puff of smoke from a distance. He immediately came down from the tree and invited his six younger siblings to head toward the puff of smoke. After walking a long way, they finally arrived at the village. How surprised they were when they saw a very large house standing upright on the edge of the village. Hey, look, that house is so big, cried the fourth child. Wah, could it be a giant house? Said the sixth child. Just as the word left his mouth. Suddenly, a loud voice came from inside the house asking them to enter the house. A few moments later, an occupant of the house came out. Apparently, she was a female giant. Hey, human child, who are you? Asked the giantess. We're lost, Mr. Giant. Our parents left us in the middle of the forest, answered the eldest. It was true. When he was up in the tree, the eldest saw a puff of smoke from a distance. He immediately came down from the tree and invited his six younger siblings to head toward the puff of smoke. Just as the word left his mouth, suddenly a loud voice came from inside the house asking them to enter the house. A few moments later, the occupants of the house came out. Apparently, she was a female giant. Hey, human child, who are you? Asked the giantess. We're lost, Mr. Giant. Our parents left us in the middle of the forest, answered the eldest. Hearing that statement, suddenly the giantess felt sorry for them. He immediately invited them into his house and served them food and drink because they were starving. The seven children ate the food with gusto. Quickly finish the food, then climb up to the attic. Otherwise, you will be eaten by my husband. It won't be long before he comes from hunting, said the giantess. Because they were afraid of being eaten by the male giant, they quickly finished their food and rushed up to the attic to hide. Not long after, the male giant come home from hunting. When he opened the door of his house, he suddenly smelled delicious food. Wow, delicious, said the male giant while inhaling the delicious smell. Mom, there seems to be good food in the house. I smell human. Where do you keep them? Asked the giant male to his wife. I keep them up in the attic, but they are still small. Let us wait for them to grow up a little so they are good to eat, answered the giantess. The giant male also obeyed his wife's word, saved the seven children from the threat of the male giant. The next day, when the male giant returned to hunting animals in the forest, the female giant immediately ordered the seven boys to leave. However, before they left, he provided them with food as needed during the trip. In fact, the kind giantess has provided them with gold and diamonds. Bring this gold and diamonds. Hopefully, they will be useful for your future, said the female giant. Thank you, giant man. Master is needed a king-hearted giant, said the eldest as he said goodbye. After walking a long way through the dense forest, up and down the mountain, they finally arrived at the beach. They immediately made a small boat and sailed across of the vast ocean. After some time sailing, they arrived in a country ruled by a just and wise king. In that land, they sold all the gold and diamond the giant had given to a rich merchant. The proceeds from the sale they used to buy plantation land. Each of them got a large enough plantation land. The seven brothers worked very hard and always helped each others. Several years later, they have grown up. Thanks to years of hard work, they finally have a lot of wealth. Then each of them made a pretty good house. The seven men life a peaceful and prosperous life. One day, the youngest suddenly remembered and missed his parent. He immediately invited his six older siblings to come to his house to go look for their parents together. I'm sorry, all of my brother. I invite you here because I want to invite you to go find your father and mother. I really miss them, and I'm sure they must still be alive," said the youngest to his sibling. "Yes, my brother, we also feel it like that. We really miss the father and mother who gave birth to all of us," added the sixth child. "In that case, okay, tomorrow morning we will go looking for them together. Do you agree?" asked the eldest. "Agree," answered the six younger siblings in the unison. The next day, the seventh brother went to look for their parents. After sailing across the vast ocean, they arrived at an island. On the island, they walked from one village to another. They have visited dozens of villages, but have not found them yet. Until one day, they found their parents in a village in a state of suffering. The seventh brother was very sad to see the condition of their parents. Finally, they brought their parents to their residence to live and live together in a nice house. Since then, the two parents were reunited and live together with their seven children. They are always busy themselves worshipping God Almighty. All his needs are met by his seven children who are quite rich. That's all from me today. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.